In this section, we're going to talk about information overload by way of example. So here's a challenge for you. This is real data. As you know, Kaggle.com, which is a data science community website owned by Google, every year they send a survey to all the community. In 2018, they sent a survey and they got 23,000 answers, of which 4,000 said they were female, 500 said they were non-binary, and 131 data scientists said they didn't answer this gender question. Now, the challenge for you is how would you visualize this information? So we have many options, isn't it? One way to do this is through a pie chart, or a bar chart, or a stack bar, or a vertical or horizontal, or what ISO measures, or using personas even. So which one would you choose? So if you're familiar with Python, you probably get this is the solution you get with Python pandas, the standard solution with the default parameters. And what is wrong with this solution? And to understand that, let me ask you, is this data, information, or knowledge? Well, if you think that this was data, then this is also data because we didn't gain much more knowledge from it, isn't it? Not only that, maybe this is even worse than this. How so? Well, first let's look at how many elements do we have here. We have the axis with the numbers, which is very good. Then the categories here, and then we have different colors for the categories. And then we have this background here. And we have, if we count the elements we have here, we have gender imbalance, title, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then we have the background, 8. And then we have these numbers here, 9. Then 4 more categories, 13. And then we have the percentages. And then we have the colors. And then female is red, but why is it red? Male is green, but why, right? So we have more than 20 elements here to explain the initial information, which was only 4 pairs of data points, isn't it? So this is a classical example of information overload, and this is the reason why most charts today, when we use the default parameters, are not very good. Now, how could we improve this chart? Or in other words, how we could really turn this from data into a bit more information. Right. So usually when we have a workshop, we let the students share the solutions. And here's a hint for you. If you want information, but you want meaningful information, then you cannot have a lot of information in your chart. So that's a hint. Right. So here's the solution. Maybe we don't need to visualize all the 4 gender options. Maybe we can focus on the main 2 gender options. And if we do that, we could draw a pie chart, right? But what is the problem with the pie chart? Well, let's see another alternative. Another example we could do is the bar plot, right? So this would be female and this would be male. And another example, and maybe a bit more neutral, would be the stack bar, right? So what is the problem with the bar chart, with the pie chart? Well, the pie chart is a metaphor of a pie, a cake. And what happens when you have a cake and you have kids around the cake? It's the scarcity narrative, isn't it? There's going to be a fight. Yeah. So when you use a pie chart for this kind of gender display, your implied narrative is scarcity, and maybe you're implying without wanting a scarcity of jobs. If we use a bar plot to display gender, what is the background message or narrative? It's like a competition between genders. And maybe if that's the message you want to say, that's fine. But if your message is gender equality, for example, maybe it's not such a good chart option. A more neutral option is the stack bar, where you display the genders horizontally, right? The problem with the stack bar is that it's not very memorable. And remember what we say in the first talk, if you make a chart and nobody likes it on Facebook, did you really make it? Right. So a way to make your chart memorable is to use popular culture cues. For example, we could convert this 80-20% ratio into superheroes, and this is called the ISO measure. An ISO measure represents the same unit or quantity of units. So in this case, for example, we choose the superheroes theme to represent the gender distribution of data scientists. And from a very heavily charged topic, by using the superheroes, we kind of make it more palatable. Yes. And it's also more memorable. Why? Because, data science is hard. So every data scientist is a superhero. That helps the memorability of the thing, right? And remember, like if nobody remembers your chart, did it happen? No. So whenever you can, try to make it, put some fun element into it, right? So in this case, we could say, there's not much gender equality and not everybody's happy about it. That could be interesting. Right. So that's one example where we try to transform data into information that is memorable. Let's say that you're working at a company and that you did this chart and your boss is very happy about it, and he asks you to visualize the following, and the boss comes to you and says, we have set a goal of gender parity for this company. Make a chart to visualize it. Now, what would you do? I give you 10 seconds. 8, 9, 10. Right. One way we could do is to draw a line and an arrow, and the arrow means where do we want to go, isn't it? Right. So here we choose the pie chart, not the best background for the narrative that you may or not may want. Here you have another example of a stack bar, but see how the gravity really affects how the goal is perceived. Because in this case, for example, when the arrow goes down, and remember this arrow is the arrow of towards the goal, what does it mean when the goal is going down? Subliminally, right? Same here. What are you implying? Are you implying that the goal is hard to achieve? And again, if we're careful with gravity and we say maybe we don't want to imply that it's hard or negative, we can use a horizontal orientation. So this example shows you very quickly, wow, gravity really affects charts. So you have to be thinking about gravity as well in your charts. right? And this leads to what we call the chart narrative fit.